Okay, so this is a video that I'm posting for school year 2024-2025, but I'm doing a very short version of it, and I'm going to show you the video from last year, like just show you the title of it, and you can go watch that to see a full video. I'm doing this ahead of the lesson, so we haven't even done the lesson, or at least not the full lesson on this topic. I might possibly I probably won't do any problems in this because I'm going to record the lesson on Monday where we'll practice a little bit. And then I'm going to record a separate video that's just the practice problems that I'm going to assign on Monday. So you'll already have those as well. So we just finished angles and we moved into finding, or we're moving into finding the perimeter and area of two-dimensional figures. So a two-dimensional figure just means it's like a flat figure. So basically a picture of a figure, or if you're looking at a screen, that is a two-dimensional image. And they're not trying to show you in 3D by somehow making it look 3D. So for example, a line is just a two-dimensional image. There's no back to it. There's no front that's supposed to be to it. It's just a line going from left to right, and it does go up, but there's no front to it or back to it. Just really quickly, if you're confused, three-dimensional would look something like this. You would see that, but then you'd see that, oh yeah, that shape also goes backwards. So that's kind of what we mean by three-dimensional. So there's a front, a bottom, a left, right, top, so, and then a back and a front. This line doesn't have a back and a front. It goes left, right, up, down. All right, so with that in mind, we need to find the length of line segments so that we can find perimeter and area. I'm going to try to do this. We'll see how well it works. So this line segment cannot be counted. I've talked about that. I talk about it in the other video that I'm going to show you the title of. I can't just count from here and say, oh, well, that's about 1, 2, 3. You can get an estimate that way, and that's not a bad idea to try to get that estimate. I also told you in class, you can put a piece of paper up against that line, and you can kind of mark on the paper and say, okay, well, on the paper, it's that long. And then tilt your paper and try to match it up with how many squares it takes up going vertically or horizontally. And that's another really good way to get a good estimate. But that does not guarantee it's the exact correct answer. So if it's not a multiple choice test, that's not going to get you an answer. So there is a formula we talked about today in class, and it's also in the other video, and it's just called the distance formula. And you get this on your reference sheet. Normally I don't teach formulas, but you get this, so I don't mind teaching it. Distance formula. And we said, or the formula says, let's make this a little bolder. Oh, that didn't do anything. Try that again. I don't know why that didn't do anything. All right, so I don't know why it's not making it darker, but it says you take x2, subtract x1, you square that, add that to y2, subtract y1, and then you square that, and that symbol all around that symbol means at the end of everything, the last thing you do is you take the square root of whatever number you get from all of this in here. Once you do all of that math, then you'll get one number and you take the square root of that. So with that in mind, we need to understand what this formula says. So first of all, those twos are telling you to do math. That's squaring some number. So inside the parentheses, we're going to do some subtraction, get a number, and then we're going to have to square those two numbers that we get. Real quickly, the calculators that are the blue calculators are a little tricky on this. You need to know that when you square any number, it's going to be a positive number because a positive, a positive number times a positive number is a positive number. So if we square a positive number, it's going to be positive. But a negative number, I don't know why I put 8, but we'll just do 8 times a negative number is also a positive number. Remember, a negative times a negative, not plus, but times a negative multiplied by a negative is also positive. So no matter what number you start with, positive or negative, you're going to get a positive number. So just understand that. And if your calculator gives you a negative one, you need to know that that was just because these calculators work a little differently on the order of operations. And there's a way to put it in correctly and avoid that, but we'll get to that later in class. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So with that in mind, now I need to understand, well, what in the world are these ones and twos? Those are not math at all. When we put points on the graph, or put the coordinates or the ordered pairs, whatever you want to call them, let's try that one more time. Maybe if I, God dang it, why is it not working? Still isn't working. I don't know what's going on. Why it's not letting me. I've been having a lot of issues with Smart Notebook lately. Here, let's try that. See if that just automatically makes it thicker. So if I want to know the X and the Y, I need to line up that point. Oh, that's a, oh, I'm doing, maybe that's why, because I'm doing a line. Huh? I need to line up the point with the X axis. So it lines up with the X axis there and the Y axis there. So that's how I get my X and my Y values. The X is always first. So my X would be negative. Why I can't make that thicker. -5, and then my Y would be -2, like I just showed. If you need to go back to that. Let me see. I mean, you can see that. I'm not going to try to do that. So now I come over here. Here, actually, let me do this. So now I come over here. And again, I line that up and I say, all right, well, this point lines up right there on the X, right there on the Y. So my X is that and my Y is that. So I write 5, 4 for this other point. Make sure you label correctly and you don't forget negative signs because that'll throw your answer off. All right, now I have my X's and Y's, but right now, if I said, all right, go ahead and start with X, you would have no idea which X I'm talking about because there's two of them. There's a -5 and a 5. That's what these are right here. It's just a way that we can refer to which X or which Y we're talking about. We're talking about X2, which would be from our second point, and X1 from our first point. Y2 from our second point, Y1 from our first point. It does not matter. Does not matter which point is the first point or which point is the second point. It'll still work out. You can try it both ways and you'll see that. Does not matter. So I'm just gonna, I typically, God, I really wish I could fix this. Here, let's try this. So it'll be highlighter, but that's fine. Oh, it may not let me write in highlighter. Shoot. Crayon maybe? Let's try that. So X1, not dark, but that's fine. Y1. And then over here, X2, Y2. I don't love that either. So let's see, I'm going to go back to black and X1, Y1, X2. I'm just label it basically. I'm saying the point on the left is my first point. That's why it's X1, Y1. The point on the right is my second point. That's why it's X2, Y2. So the ones and twos are just a way to describe which point I'm talking about. Now, though, I have everything I need for this formula up here. Everything. Oh, did not really do that. Actually, did not do that. I have everything I need to plug in and solve that formula. I'll show it to you again. You can rewind if you need to. You get that on your reference sheet. It looks just like I just wrote it. So I'm going to just start plugging in numbers now. Be very careful. Kids think, oh, I got the formula. This will be easy. Kids make mistakes. A lot of kids, not just one or two, make mistakes all over the place on these formulas when they're just plugging in numbers or with the calculator. So my x2 value is 5. So I start by writing 5 as my x2. And I'm getting this from up here. Up there. So it says subtract, and then it says x1. Well, my x1 is -5. Just because I wrote subtraction doesn't mean I ignore the fact that the number is -5. I've got to write negative and then the 5. And don't forget you have to square it. A lot of kids forget about the squares in the formula when they start writing numbers down. Then I add that. I can make this all squeeze in. My y2 value is the 4. Again, if you're not sure where I'm getting that, there's y2 value. If you labeled everything correctly, just be careful and you should be fine. 4 subtract, not all going to fit into it. So 4 subtract, again, it is -2, and then don't forget the square. So now, I'll just keep going. I'll come back to what I was doing. So I say 5. This is calculator stuff. You can ask me how to do it in class if you're not sure. Depends on the calculator you have. 5 subtract -5 is 10. Plus, oh, and then squared. Don't forget the squared. That 2 up here did not go away, so it's still got to be there. 4 subtract -2 is 6. And again, squared. So if I do the math on that, I get 100 plus 36 equals 136. And a lot of kids pat themselves on the back and they say that was super easy. Well, they're wrong. They're not done. A coordinate plane has to pretty much beat a scale. Like if I have all these grid lines, they can't fool me by making something like a lot longer than it looks or a lot shorter than it looks. They can't. I have grid. I have numbers there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are all equally spaced. So that line, I have to be able to at least estimate from the numbers. So if I know this line here is going from -5 to 5, so that is 10. I know this line here goes from -2 to 4. So that is 6, that vertical red line. Well, if you remember, I just created a right triangle, and this hypotenuse, that black line segment, is the hypotenuse. It's the longest side of a right triangle. So I've got to be longer than 10, but I can't be that much longer than 10. Like I said, you could measure it with paper, place it next to try to place your paper here and count about how many it would be. That'd give you a pretty good estimate. But it can't be, I'd say, any like 11 to 13 would be my guess, my range. Somewhere between 11, somewhere 11 to 13. Well, that is clearly not 11 to 13. Well, I'm doing something wrong. Well, I haven't done anything wrong. I just haven't finished. I kind of did this on purpose, but don't forget about this symbol that's around the entire formula. That is a square root symbol. So when you get done and you get this big number and you're like, wait a minute, that makes no sense. If the side down here is 10, that side should be between 11 and 13. Something's wrong. you got this big number, you just haven't taken the square root of it. So your last step in all of these problems is going to be take the square root of that number, that final big number that you get. I don't have a calculator, and I'm not going to worry about grabbing one, but it should be probably about 11.5-ish, 11.4, 11.5, 11.6, somewhere in that range. I know 11 squared is 121, 12 squared is 144. So maybe 11.6, probably even 7, maybe even 11.7. But do it, just practice taking the square root on whatever calculator you're using, somewhere around 11.7-ish. All right, so that's all I'm going to do on this video. I'll show you some potential problems that you'll get. Oh, here, I'll give you one you can do real quick. Actually, I'm not going to give you one. You have problems you can do in the video that I'm about to show you. And we still haven't really done the next part in class, so you can practice in class if you don't want to watch the old video from last year. So here's the old video, 2 of them actually. I don't think I can, I could probably figure out how to draw on the screen, but I'm not gonna worry about it. So this video right here, it actually is a good review for the complementary and supplementary stuff too, for Tuesday's quiz. So that video right there, September 12th, 13th, part 1. Here's September 12th, 13th, part 2. This actually does word problems like we did the other day, which will be on your quiz. And then this video right here. I tried to change the title, hoping it would move it back up to the top of my videos. It did not do it. But this video right here, Mr. Gill Geo from 2023. And it says for September 6th, which was today, but it says lessons, angles, perimeter, area, same thing we kind of did today. If you ever just Google, like, I tell you to Google Mr. Gill geometry to get to my stuff. But if you just Google one of the specific words in the lesson, let's say perimeter, you had written down, hopefully you wrote that down, or angles, or complementary, or something like that. One of the main keywords, it'll take you straight to old videos as well as current videos. So this one right here is the old video that I did. Oh, it'll take you to other videos too. I mean, again, I don't care if you watch other, I would love for you to watch other videos. Sometimes they're very short. Normally these that are this short, they're more like middle school level videos. So don't think just because you have this and you can do these problems that you'll be good for my stuff. But if you're struggling to understand it, you may want to kind of go back and look at the the content from a middle school lesson and then come back to our lesson. So I'm not sure why it didn't bring up the other earlier when I did this before I did this video, and earlier when I searched, oh, there it is right there. I'm not sure why it's so far down. Last time it was like the 3rd video, but if you scroll down, you'll eventually find it. Mr. Gill, perimeter, angles, all that. And again, other videos. Now these are a higher level, more closer to what we do. This organic chemistry guy and Khan Academy, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, are typically more at the high school level. So you could watch those too. But yeah, for Tuesday, I'm not going to record and post one like I said I would. I'm just going to let you watch those two if you want. And we'll do this Monday, but it'll be fast because remember, we're on skinny days in a lot of days. Monday, Tuesday, and Friday now. And I'll post another video, separate video going over the practice problems that I'm going to assign. I haven't even decided yet which ones I'm going to assign.